What is up, guys? This is Bradley alongside Zach and Dawson, and you are listening to the Charm City Sideline podcast. Tonight, we will be reacting to the Ravens win over the Pittsburgh Steelers in the wild card round, 28-14. Pretty dominant win overall. Lamar played great. Derrick Henry played great. Defense played pretty well besides 2 or 3 plays. Very exciting game, Zach. I'll kick it to you first. How are you feeling coming out of this one?
I'm feeling really good. I mean, we were nervous going into this. We were all us three were texting each other. I'm sure you, as a fan, were also listening or watching, whatever. And you definitely felt nervous because this was the team that's kind of had our number, right? 2-8 against them in the last 10, and to win like that, to go out and start the first half like that, and then finish the game in the end after they kind of started to peek their head around the corner. Man, what a great feeling to see someone like Lamar get the win, and then someone like Derrick Henry snap. That was fun.
It's so nice to see the Ravens finally turning this corner with, their matchups against the Steelers, and the last two have been so one-sided, and it feels so nice to see this team finally catch that momentum. And then, given it's a playoff game and we're at the bank against our biggest rival. So it's a great game. It's a very feel-good game. Derrick Henry exploded like he has all season, and Lamar had a great game. So it's a feel-good moment, man, and I'm ready for the next one already.
Yeah. I guess, okay, we can try to get into this game. So, okay, first of all, Steelers won the toss and elected to receive. I thought that was pretty interesting. I sort of understand not wanting the Ravens to just be up 7-0 right away, but they were anyway. Steelers picked up one first down and punted. So Ravens get the ball. It's a 13-play, 95-yard touchdown drive. Talk about the issues with the punt returning, getting the ball at the own 5. So that wasn't great, but Lamar running a ton on this possession and ended up having a 3rd and 13 at the Steelers' 15-yard line. Hits Bateman over the middle for a touchdown. I mean, that was a beautiful drive. Dawson, how are you feeling when the Ravens went up 7-0 there?
Dude, it was... So you started off this discussion with them electing to receive, which it just baffled me because it's in this kind of game, this matchup's already expected to be so one-sided, and the biggest concern is if the Steelers defense can stop the Ravens offense and vice versa. So it's just I don't know what they were doing there. I don't know what their logical thoughts were behind that, but the Ravens came out, shut them down, got the ball, and literally drove right downfield and punched them in the mouth real early. And it was a really easy drive, to be honest with you. And it was a beautiful strike to bait, dude. It was an incredible play like we've seen throughout the season. And it was a very quick momentum shift to this team. And, they kind of just took away in the first half and exploded. But that first drive, man, it was too easy for them.
Yeah, I mean, talk about a picture-perfect start. The first half, I forgot how much yards they had in the first half, whether it was, I think, maybe under 100.
I think it was the Steelers.
Yeah. And what, 2 or 3 first downs for the first half? It was utter dominance. And what we did in the second half compared to it makes me a little nervous, but thank you, 2 Federal, 60, yeah. That first half was just the Ravens playing the way they wanted to play the game, right? That sounds obvious to say, but if all you can do in the game is hand it off to Derrick Henry and hope that Lamar can get you some big first downs, big down plays, that's the entire game plan. That's all we have. Sure, Bateman and Likely had great games, but without Zay, we become not one-dimensional, but our focus becomes one-dimensional, as in we want to dominate you rushing-wise, and we absolutely did. I think the big difference, right, was Lamar had, 10 carries in the first half. He was really running the ball a lot, and a lot more than we've ever seen really this whole year. Bateman was special. He had that red zone touchdown, and that was amazing. And you could see him hype. That was really fun. But overall, the first half was exactly what you wanted, and the Steelers could not do anything about it. That shows me that the postseason run we were hoping for is going to happen, is happening as we watched it tonight. But the fact that as good of a team, even though they're messing up right lately. As good of a team as the Steelers are defensively, we still punched them, and they couldn't do anything about it.
Yeah, it was nice to see the Ravens offense with the concern coming into this game with Zay Flowers. It was nice to see this Ravens offense still move the ball at their will and kind of punish a really good defense. So because people were obviously scared coming into this matchup as far as, how this Ravens offense can move the ball truthfully when they're without their wide receiver one, and they're gonna have to rely on the run game, which of course has not given them any issues up until this point in the season. But it was really refreshing to see them kind of, unfortunately, lose their best wide receiver, but still just be such a punishing, dominant, moving the ball at will offense.
Yeah, that first drive really was a masterclass from Todd Monken, in my opinion. Lamar talked about the zone reads at his post-game presser, and basically they were reading Henry, the Steelers' defense, and Lamar was keeping it. Inside linebackers were weaving around to try to also stop Lamar, but that's pretty hard to do. And Lamar, was it like 4 or 5 runs in a row on that drive? Just picked up like 3, 4, or 5 yards over and over and over again. And then we had the Derrick Henry and the Wildcat. I don't know about you guys, but they had the close shot of Henry, and I saw him doing the snap count, and I was like, what is going on? And then they like show the actual view, and he's like in Wildcat, and I'm like, okay. And they send Lamar in motion, and I think we mentioned this a little bit in our preview, but Steelers have really struggled with motion a lot the past month or so. And I think it almost made it tougher on them without Zay Flowers in terms of this aspect, because usually it's Flowers going in motion. This time it was Anthony Miller going in motion, Isaiah Likely going in motion, Bateman going in motion, Lamar Jackson going in motion on that. And you can see the defense is just completely out of whack when that happens. So I thought that was very well executed drive from Monken. Steelers punt after that, which I want to say
real quick, I want to intervene. Isn't that the play with the Wildcat where Henry ran for like 34 yards?
Yeah.
And threw Minkah Fitzpatrick literally into the dirt.
Yes.
He literally threw Minkah Fitzpatrick into like the Earth's atmosphere. That was incredible.
Heck
dude.
Yeah.
I feel so bad, dude. It was such a nice stiff arm, and it was dude. And we had 2 of them. We had 2 of them in this game. Isaiah Likely as well. I think he bounced. God, who was it? I forget. There was a defender in Pittsburgh as well. I got bounced off the turf. But God, dude, that play was crazy because, like you said, he was in the Wildcat. And then next thing you know, he's tumbling down the field for 34 yards, and he's just imposing his will on them.
Yeah, and filthy stiff arm from Likely. The second Ravens touchdown drive, 13 plays, 13 runs, 0 passes. Derrick Henry for 1 yard, Lamar for 8, Andrews tush push, Henry for 8, Lamar for 1, Henry for 3. Henry for 2, Lamar for 2, Lamar for 9, Henry for 3, Henry for 17, Henry for 8 touchdown. I mean, it was just so methodical, like a 13-play drive. And I think something that I noticed, and probably everyone knows, Ravens had bad field position a lot. Their first drive was 95 yards, touchdown. Second drive, 85 yards, touchdown. So being able to execute those 2 possessions was pretty impressive, in my opinion.
Real quick, everyone in the Instagram group chat over here is asking, and I know we're going to get to this, but since they're asking right now, I'm going to answer the question. They're asking as far as what are the playoff scenarios, given that we won tonight. Yeah. And I will say that tomorrow, if you do not want to play the Bills next week, we all have to be Denver Broncos fans. So if the Bills win tomorrow, which they're highly expected to, Baltimore will be heading to Buffalo next weekend. If Denver pulls off the upset, which would be absolutely insane, the Ravens would play host to the Houston Texans next weekend, and the Denver Broncos would be going to Kansas City. So those are the playoff scenarios as we head into the divisional round. So I think we can all join the wagon of we want to be Broncos fans tomorrow, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's going to be so fun to watch the games tomorrow, and especially that Denver Bills game. I mean, hopefully it's not a blowout right off the bat like both of the games today, but yeah, that'll be an exciting one. After the Ravens 13-play, 13 running play, touchdown drive, Steelers punt again after 1 first down. Then I was my opinion was like, okay, 14-0 at half. I will take that. any day of the week. And they go down and score again. And this was a drive where, you had the likely stiff arm, I believe, and gets him down to the 5 with 12 seconds left. And there's been a couple times in the past where Ravens are in this situation. Lamar scrambles around, and it's kind of scary when there's no timeouts. And he did it again. And I saw him say, even in his post-game presser, he was like, "Yeah, I was running around." He said, "If Hill wasn't there, I was going to try to run and score." So he wasn't going to try to throw the ball away, which I think is pretty funny, also pretty cool at the same time. But how do you guys feel about sort of being aggressive there, going up 21-0 at the break?
Yeah, it was picture perfect, right? I just wanted really 3 points. I think most of us would have been happy with anywhere for Tuck just to get a kick out of the way. But dude, it was some magic that we had to have. I was just impressed really from the whole drive. Up to that point, we had been dominating the game just rushing wise, right? I mean, we've been making good passes, but that drive, at 2-minute warning, it was, hey, do we have the ability to pass still? And if you remember, the first 2 plays were runs. We get down to maybe a minute, and then it really kind of kicks in with the passing game and get all the way down the field still. It was incredible. It was probably, it might be one of the best drives of the night because 2-minute warning really executed to perfection, and then cut off another 50 seconds of just those 2 runs. You're talking about a touchdown 90-yard drive in a minute. That is just utter dominance. And I was more impressed, with the likely stiff arm as well. I'm sure everyone else is too. That was just brutal, man. That was awesome.
That was a crazy play, just like the whole night. It seems to be the trend. But it's also funny too, because on that third down on that drive when we were I think we were midfield, Mike Tomlin calls a timeout, obviously, as he should as a coach, to potentially get the ball back for Pittsburgh. And it works in Baltimore's favor because they, get the first down on the third, and then they go downfield and score a touchdown before. So it's just like, this team is so dominant, dude, and their 2-minute warning is just, or their 2-minute offense, man, has been working, and it's just, I truly don't know how you stop it. I don't know what you're supposed to do as an opposing defense right now with how many weapons we have. And like we said, we were without our wide receiver 1. We were without our 1,000-yard wide receiver tonight, and our offense looked just as good, and that's no discredit to Zay Flowers whatsoever, but it just shows you how much value this offense has and how many ways they can attack you in such a very strong way.
Did you guys notice Harbaugh with the play sheet in the first half?
Yes.
I did not.
That was interesting.
That's why Lamar had 5 straight runs.
Like he definitely, I don't know if I'd say definitely, like I would assume Monken was calling the plays, but I don't know. I'd love to hear more about that. I don't know if he got asked about that or not, but at halftime, Lamar Jackson, 13 for 15, 144, 2 touchdowns, 11 carries, 64 rushing yards. Ravens had 308 yards of offense in the first half. I mean,
that's just insane.
And we talked about it in the pregame, right? We wanted, because of Zay's absence, we wanted a battle of the trenches. We wanted a battle of the trenches, and we wanted to win it. Talk about how this whole Cam Hayward and TJ Watt stuff, TJ's never won a playoff game. He's playing for that. Cam Hayward, we don't know how many years he has left. He was good tonight, but the O-line really, as a collective group, played fantastic. You had the weird Ronnie false starts in the beginning of the half, I think. But other than that, almost a perfect game from them. There was no big mess ups. There was, I think, 1 sack allowed, I believe. And I'm just so happy and proud for them, because a complete 180 from the beginning of the year where we're trying to figure out who plays where, and the trenches was where this game was won tonight. Henry balled out, and I'm sure he would give just as much of the credit, if not all of it, to his O-line playing as great of a game as they did tonight, because it was very impressive. There's not really, I mean, Chiefs have Chris Jones, Bills have 2 studs on the edges, but that D-line is as good as you're going to face in the playoffs. So I think now, seeing that they have that confidence, Falele with that Pro Bowl nod, everyone's getting a little here's a little more confidence. Here's a little more. And it's shaping up to the most dominant run group maybe of all time.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Zach. I really appreciate you saying all that because it's really the truth. And this offensive line has been a stone wall, literally in the later part of the season, ever since really the halfway point. Kind of they figured it out and really stuck those guys in rather than rotating them. And this chemistry is stacked upon the season. And now these guys are playing as like a really whole complete unit, and they're playing really good against really tough opponents. I mean, and I know he was battling an injury tonight, not going into the game, but rather early on in the game. But TJ Watt recorded 0 stat on the stat sheet tonight. He didn't record a single stat. So that is a huge compliment to our rookie right tackle, Roger Rosengarten, who's been an absolute unit on the right side of the offensive line for, I would say, the whole season. I mean, this guy has been incredible. And Ronnie Stanley, obviously, we know the season he's having. He's having an all-pro season yet again. Which is great to see, given that, the past few years it's been questionable with what we're going to get from him moving forward. And then you got Tyler Linderbaum, who's, I would say, a top 3, maybe not 2 or 3 center in the NFL. I mean, this guy is literally a beast, and he does everything you'd want as far as, becoming an all-pro as well eventually in his career. Mm-hmm. And they had a really tough task tonight, like Zach said, against the Steelers. Like, they have a really good D-line with a bunch of monsters, and they handled them very well. I mean, there was so many running lanes and so many opportunities for this Baltimore offense to just kind of move at their own will, and they took advantage of it and made it happen. So props to the offensive line, man, and I just hope they keep stacking these good games.
I want to give credit to the Ravens organization, team building, Eric DeCosta. I mean, we criticized the offensive line. Basically, we're worried about it all offseason. And, I mean, we're kind of proved right first couple weeks of the season. Mm-hmm. But this really got it together. Falele improved a lot. I really think it was when McCary got hurt and Rosengarten had to play right tackle. And then ever since Rosengarten was at right tackle, then McCary got healthy, moved him back to left guard. It's really been good, pretty good ever since then. They've had their moments, but comment from Charles. What drive was that where Freiermuth, it was 3rd and 2. It was one of the Steelers' first drive of the game. 3rd and 2, Freiermuth gets a pass. I mean, it's Freiermuth versus a 5'8" safety, needs a half a yard, and it's just a brick wall. Our Darius Washington. I mean, I put in our group chat, like, why is this guy stronger than the Hulk? It's you had to play against Mixon on Christmas. I mean, it's insane what he's doing.
And what he did against Russ, a few weeks ago, and with Pittsburgh too. This guy at least once a game gets like a hit stick, and it's incredible. And it shifts the momentum. I mean, it's a huge piece as far as why this defense rallies. They get like super hype when this happens, and it always seems to happen at like the perfect time at, a time where they need it the most. So it's incredible. And this dude's playing his tail off, and he's well on his way to becoming one of these cornerstone players on this defensive unit.
And talk about the highest honor of compliment from Richard Sherman in the post game, talking about comparing him to Earl Thomas and delivering hits like that. I mean, whoa, that was another level of respect, and really, national media seeing him for the first time saying, hey, he's actually a force to be reckoned with. He's changing the football game for the Ravens. And oh my goodness, how good was he, Charles? Great friggin' comment, man. Whew.
And Nate Wiggins had a really good play of his own, making a stop on a 3rd down. Secondary, very aggressive. Tackling was great today, in my opinion. Maybe the exception of one play, the Najee Harris screen, is kind of the only thing I can think of. But other than that, I mean, it's crazy how well the secondary tackles and has been tackling. Coming out of the break, Ravens get to midfield and end up punting. I don't know about you guys. It got criticized because obviously Steelers go down and score anyway. But at the time, 4th and 2 at midfield, I agreed to punt. We talked about this in the pregame. I don't know if you guys agreed with me as a sort of what I was mentioning, but I was like, punt the ball at midfield, kick field goals on 4th and 1, like because of the offense that you're playing against. And they did that. Obviously, it didn't work out in this situation because Steelers scored anyway. But I wanted to get your guys' opinion on that decision there, and sort of being somewhat conservative today overall, I would say.
No, I totally agree. Of course, we say this now, but it's like I was a fan of punting it as well. In playoff games, you got to take what's given to you. And given that we had a pretty big lead, I wasn't for taking a gamble and a risk. And then if something goes wrong, they have great field position, and say they go down and score, which Ultimately, of course, they did. But I'm glad that they weren't greedy. I'm glad that they took what was given to them. They kind of did what they could with what was given, or handed to them. I'm sorry. And people can hate it all you want and say you get conservative or whatever, but it's like, okay, then if we go for it and we don't get it, guess what? It's going to get hated either way. It's a lose-lose situation. And, obviously you weren't in field goal range, so you couldn't do that. So I was a fan for punting it, and I don't really see how anyone could justify that, like, going for it was the right, topic there or whatever you want to call it.
I'm only going to debate you, Dawson, because the touchdown the next friggin' time. And it was possibly Stout's best punt of his career after that. So I was like, dude, yes, Stout. But to stay on the field and hopefully get that first down, maybe that drive never happens. Maybe, we continue dominating and go up 28-0, or at least maybe get 3 points. But ultimately, I agree with you. I thought that giving the momentum in a way where the short field happens is way worse than just giving them the ball back. And in the end, given the best punt possible, pinning them at the 2, just perfection. So really, they had to work for that touchdown drive, and all's respect to them. But ultimately, it felt, whenever that touchdown happened, I felt a little hole in my stomach. Like, oh, what if we did go for it? Maybe we get like another dominant scoring drive out of it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's really the difference of 1 yard. Like, if it's a 4th and 1, I'm probably saying go for it. But like a 4th and 2, like it's like one of those weird things where it's like, okay, that's a little different. That's a lot more. So it's like 4th and 2, no. 4th and 1, I'd be for going for it.
Yeah, and I want to talk about the Steelers drive that made it 21-7 a little bit. They had a 3rd and 9 at their own 3-yard line, and Ardarius Washington, Calvin Austin was open over the middle, but Ardarius Washington had a great hit, and Calvin Austin's been a good player for them this year. I want to do a quick shout out to him, similarly to some players on the Ravens. Dealt with injuries, looked like a bust at one point. He's made a lot of plays this year. Held on to that pass, set them up, got them out of their own territory. And then Russell Wilson hit Mike Williams down the sideline for 37. I don't remember who was on Mike Williams on that play.
It was Trey White.
Yeah. Thank you. It was Trey White. Got beat deep. And then Dawson, I'll let you talk after this, but 3rd and 10 at the 30. Ravens, and I do want to talk about this a little bit because I felt like Ravens were getting a little aggressive, and we've talked about how much Hamilton and Washington have been the 2 high safeties. And on this drive, and I think earlier in the game a little bit, Hamilton was actually in the box again, and it was Washington single high, and the Steelers attacked that. And I will say after the Mike Williams play, Ravens went back to 2 high, but Hamilton still got caught looking. Brandon Stevens did get beat. Not a good rep on that play at all. But I would say, without knowing the reason, I would put the blame on both of them there. You did see Hamilton sort of yelling at Stevens after that play, so we'll never know for sure. But Dawson, I'll let you take it away because I know you're not very fond of Stevens over there.
Yeah, real quick before I get to this point, I just want to do a quick shout out. I would assume we're going to get to it. I want to shout out the pass rush tonight. They had a really good game. And again, against a pretty solid offensive line. I know their right guard was out. I think it was Mason McCormick, I think, rookie right guard. But overall, dude, great game. They were getting pressure all night. They felt like they were on Russ literally the whole game. So that was I think we ended up with 4 sacks. So shout out to them. But now to the point of Brandon Stevens, my lovely, lovely Brandon Stevens. Everyone should know by now, and if you don't, I am not a fan of Brandon Stevens. Unfortunately, he was probably my least favorite player on the team, and he is the biggest weakness of this team. And it genuinely puts a fear in my eyes for what could come in this playoff race with teams having a giant target on Brandon Stevens' back. I mean, teams literally know that if you want to find any momentum, you just look for 21 and go after him. And we talked all week long in the previews and stuff about this. If and when the Steelers find any momentum in this game, it will more than likely be on Brandon Stevens' head. And that's exactly what it was. He was a liability like he has been the entire season. And I don't get it. I don't understand how he's been so bad, because last season he was genuinely a really good defensive back. I mean, he was like like borderline lockdown corner last year, and it's not crazy to say that. And this year, dude, he has been horrendous. I'm just gonna say it. He has been, and it's just unfortunate because, like you said, Brad, we don't really know what happened on this specific play. You know, it could be where Stevens thought he had Hamilton over the top with help, and then vice versa. Hamilton thought it was a one-on-one rep with Brandon, and you know, it could be a miscommunication. Whatever. Either way, bad rep from Brandon Stevens, and he needs to get it figured out, man. Because if we have to go into Orchard Park next week and go against Josh Allen, against the second best quarterback in the NFL, I would say, he is going to target Brandon Stevens so much, and I am not looking forward to that. So overall, it's just something we knew that was going to happen. I literally said it in the preview probably like 100 times. This was going to happen, and it's exactly what it did.
Yeah, I'm sadly closer to your side than not, Dawson. What the team impresses me with is their ability to still say, we want you to play. You're still the guy to guard there, really wide receiver 1. And the fact that you have someone like Marlon playing his game in the slot, and then Wiggins is still playing a great game, besides being a part of giving up that touchdown to Pickens. Stevens is like, he would be a reason why you don't win a playoff game. I agree with that. But on the other hand, if he can really be that sticky guy for one game and shut down, you know, if next week it is the Bills and he can somehow shut down maybe Coleman or maybe Azan Cooper. He didn't really have a great game against Coleman when they played the Bills the first time around. And I don't know. I'm optimistic with him only because he does have the ability. He has the talent to do it. Everyone knows he does. The Ravens definitely know he does. It's just the fact that this year is a slump unlike any other, and sadly it leaked a little bit into this game. It got corrected, but it leaked into this game and gave the Steelers really a little bit of life, and you really have to see that as a real bad sign, I guess.
All I'm going to say is I'm looking forward, and I'm not saying this in a way as far as like the season end, of course. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm looking forward to this hopefully being Brandon Stevens' last year in Baltimore, because I'm pretty sure he's a free agent after the end of the season. So free agency, as far as that situation, could not come soon enough.
Might be ending up in Seattle with Mike McDonald, see if they can sort of recalibrate over there.
There you go.
I will say, and I like what Zach said a little bit, Trey White isn't much better, if at all. So, like, every team has a weakness on both sides of the ball. Ravens' weakness, if you had to pick one on offense, is the guard play. The weakness on defense is one of their outside corners is just going to get picked on, whether it's White or Stevens. So there's not much you can do at this point. I will say they fixed it after Wiggins also gave up the touchdown to Pickens. They were like, okay, we're not doing this anymore. Humphrey played safety a little bit today. They were moving a lot of guys around. So I liked what they did after the Pickens touchdown. But before that, Ravens obviously answered with the also on this drive. So this is the drive Ravens go up 28-7 in the third quarter. Steven Sims getting involved on the end around. I thought that was cool. We saw Anthony Miller get a catch today. Steven Sims get involved.
How many snaps did Anthony Miller play on offense today?
Yeah,
what is going on? What are we doing?
I mean, it's your only option. I think that Steven Sims and Anthony Miller are both guys who've been in the league for at least neither of them are on their rookie contracts anymore. You trust them a little more than Tez Walker in those spots, I would guess.
Dude, I was a fan of potentially drafting Anthony Miller 7 years ago out of Memphis.
Yeah.
Like, I wanted the Ravens to draft Anthony Miller like years and years ago. So like the small part of me is like, this is kind of cool. Like he's finally here, but obviously, you know, this isn't a guy that we're expecting to make a huge difference. But I mean, like Brad said, he is a veteran. So if you're going to throw anyone into the fire in a game to this magnitude, I would probably have a slight edge over giving it to a veteran rather than a rookie. I would probably have to agree there.
Yeah. And
I'm sorry, Brad. The end of that drive being the Derrick Henry touchdown, that was the first time the entire game that I really thought that the Ravens had won. And what that past drive where they go 98 yards and they score, that's ridiculously impressive. But the 2 big pass plays is what made it up. And it ends up on the next drive after this touchdown, another couple big pass plays being the reason that they moved the ball. And once we took it away, it was amazing. But the touchdown drive, Derrick Henry really scores that. And that was really an out-of-body moment for me, thinking of Derrick Henry is in a Ravens uniform, and Derrick Henry is balling out in a Ravens uniform, and he is serving us a Ravens playoff W against the Pittsburgh Steelers in the playoffs. I mean, just iconic stuff. It was a different feeling for me tonight watching him score that one.
Thanks to Henry for sticking it out and joining us on this one real quick.
Can we also talk about a weakness on this team being the punt return ability? Like, can we please get somebody finally that just doesn't like scare me as far as catching the ball? Like, I don't want a guy who I shouldn't say I don't. Obviously I do. We just need a guy that I know is going to catch the ball. Like
Hardy will probably be back next week, I will say. So
thank God, dude. Hopefully he can catch the ball. Because, dude, these guys are out here scaring me.
He did when he was healthy. I mean, I remember Hardy being healthy in September, and I was like, Ravens haven't had a punt return I trusted in the past couple of years, and I mean, he did everything to a T.
Well, he's
what you should do.
Pro. He's an all-pro return.
And he's a former Bill as well. He had a punt return touchdown with the Bills last year.
Hold on.
To clinch their 1 seed against the Dolphins. So, Ravens answer with the Derrick Henry 44-yard touchdown. Was it Patrick Queen that looked like he did not really want to be involved on that play there?
He definitely could have at least made a diving attempt or anything to take down Henry, and he kind of just walked past.
He got a tap on the forehead.
He kind of just watched him walk right through.
Someone was in motion on that play. It might have been Sims again, or I don't know who it was, but again, you see I don't know what it's called, the charts with like just the dots as all the players, and it kind of shows everything. The whole Steelers linebackers are just moving, and then Derrick Henry runs up the middle like multiple times. I'll try to post them on my story if I can find them again. But we talked about Steelers struggling with motion, and Ravens couple long touchdowns was the case there.
It's just so difficult to defend the offense because
I know
on a play like that, like everyone thinks Lamar's taken off over here, so there's already 3-4 players accounted going that way. And then they just give it to Henry at the middle. And then all these guys have to backtrack and take it across half the field again to try to catch up to him. And by that point, he's already long gone. It's just like there's so many weapons and there's so many decoys you can use.
And couple that with the fact that I believe Henry actually starts running and gets really face first into that and cuts over and still gets loose and goes. I think there's some picture out there that was a little viral of like 5 Steelers defenders really close right there within him. And the next picture is, him gone. It was awesome. I love that picture.
Yeah. And Zach, you talked about thinking the game's over there. I sort of had the same feeling. You would assume that the Ravens don't give up another deep touchdown down the sideline after that. But it did happen. This was a little bit more of a, honestly, not really. I was going to say methodical drive, but they hit a perfect play call, the Najee screen pass.
Yeah.
Down to the Ravens 37 because Broderick Washington was pretty close to Russ there, and even me, I got a little excited, and I'm like, oh, they threw a screen right into the blitz, and it worked very well, and then. Najee ran for 1 yard in the very next play. Pickens to the right, beat Wiggins right off the snap. You heard Herb Street saying how he never got hands on him right away. And Ardarius kind of went for the hit there. And Pickens just a great play for Pickens. Shook both of them off, cut inside, scored. And that was a moment where it was like, okay, that's 2 times now. Like, do not let this happen the third time. And I don't know. That was not encouraging to see, I would say.
Yeah, for sure. And it's kind of like the first time this season that I can remember like a big play happening like over on Nate Wiggins. Like it's just we haven't seen that this year. He's been like a really good corner, like really good rookie corner at that. And it was weird. It was kind of a weird play. It was kind of also a thing where we knew eventually they were going to connect on a long ball to George Pickens. It was just a matter of where and when. And it is what it is. It's a weird play that 10 times out of 10 is probably not going to happen more than 5 times or more than 3 times. So I don't know. It's weird.
Not to mention Ardarius was like prepping the hit stick behind him, was he not? Like if that had landed, that could have been a different play. But that spin from Pickens was special. It shows how good of a player he is whenever he can get the ball in his hands.
And the Ravens got the ball back, and of course, I mean, there were a little bit of pre-snap penalty struggles today, which we talked about. Probably just can't change that at this point. I mean, it happened 3 or 4 times today. I think there was a false start. So they're first and 15, incomplete pass. Lamar ran for 6 yards. Then it was 3rd and 9, incomplete pass again. So 3 and out there after the Steelers touchdown was really not ideal, and I think it was feeling a little iffy there, if you guys would agree with me. But Ravens defense Steelers had 2 more possessions. Steelers got the ball with 2:27 in the third quarter, down by 14. That was their second to last possession of the game.
Whew.
I mean, talk about time of possession. Ravens were at close to 39-33. Let's just call it 40 minutes of possession in this one. Steelers on this drive had the false start of their own and picked up a first down, but ended up having to go for a 4th and 16 there. This reminded me of the play where they had to go for the 4th and 5 3 weeks ago, and Russ just threw a prayer up to the middle of the end zone, and it was like a 4v1 jump ball, and Ardarius made a play on it, so that was good to see there. I mean, they had to go for that.
Yeah, and then people are like, "Oh, he didn't intercept," and it's like, okay, if he did, we had worse field position. He would have been like the 20, and we took over at like the 40 or something like that. So, it's whatever.
And what you were saying about really their whole game plan in the second half, it really crumbled, right? When I look at the stats, rushing yards for the Steelers, 29 rushing yards compared to 299 for the Ravens. It was, once again, we kind of got right back on the track. It was dominating time of possession. It was, we're going to hold the ball and move the ball as well as we can for as long as we can. And your rushing game is not going to work. It was something special tonight.
And I just saw a quote from Deshaun Elliott, former Raven, who I have a lot of love for him still. It wasn't up to him to return to the Ravens or not. This is his quote, having 300 yards rushing on you is worse than having 300 yards passing. They definitely put belt to butt today. So Queen and Elliott probably not too happy about how that game went, but
not the Joker, dude. Yeah, he is a former Raven that I can't really say too many bad things about. He was one of my favorites while he was here, and it's not like a situation like Patrick Queen. There's not, as much bitterness between the two as far as that situation.
Yeah, and I still do have appreciation for Patrick Queen because he was one of my favorite players on the Ravens, and the Ravens did not want him back. I think even if he signed with the Steelers and didn't really say anything, I think we would still kind of like him. It was all that off-season talk that sort of, I think, kind of ruined it. But I don't know. It enhanced the rivalry a little bit. But Ravens got the ball back after that Steelers turnover on downs. Ravens by far best field position of the day after the. Oh, excuse me. Am I messed up here? No, that was the punt, right? Okay, yeah, they punted on that 4th and 16, and the Ravens got the ball back, and the Ravens ended up not getting any points there, but they did take it from 14:52 in the fourth all the way down to 8:36. So solid drive there, even without punting. And then I was wrong. The Steelers turnover on downs was on the next possession with 6 minutes to go in the fourth quarter when Ardarius broke it up, and game kind of fell over there. Obviously, Ravens still need to pick up a few first downs and just went on a casual 10-play, 44-yard drive to close it out. Steelers could not get off the field, and that's exactly what Deshaun Elliott was talking about.
Yeah, it really was one of those games too where you could just see it multiple times throughout the matchup. It just looks like the Pittsburgh defense just did not want to be there. Like they just looked tired, confused, helpless. Like I kind of felt bad for them in a way. It was kind of like it's funny and sad to say, but like seriously, they just looked like they did not want to be there. And by all means necessary, I would be the same way if I had to take down that offense and that cold weather and you're down 2-3 touchdowns and it's just miserable outcome for them. And I'm not complaining, of course, but you could tell that they were just getting beat down and they kind of gave up, I would say. I mean, seriously, it looked like a team that at halftime had zero life and almost you could logically say that they were giving up. What is going on with Zach's mic right now? What just happened? Zach, mute your mic.
Zach, you sound like Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Holy, what just happened? That was the most bizarre thing I've ever heard in my life.
What were we talking about?
Oh, God, that's crazy, dude.
Is it better now?
Yeah.
Now we can hear the normal sound.
What? I sounded like a chipmunk? Is that what you said?
Zach, you'll see. You will see once you watch this.
All right. What? Okay.
Holy.
I was about to read this Jeff Zrebic tweet because he tweeted out that the Ravens held the ball for 12 minutes and 22 seconds of the fourth quarter. It's straight up the most dominant football you could find in the book. It's the definition of dominance in football. This is going to be put right next to it.
Dude, getting 300 yards ran on you that's just embarrassing. Like straight up. How would you even feel as a player after the game? I would be so like just beat down and sad. Like that would be so miserable, dude. Like now you got to fly back home. Season's over. Your division rival just put your season to rest. Do
you guys know? Did the Titans not do that to us? Did they not? I don't think it was 300, but it was something stupid, right?
It was like 250.
I was about to look that up really quick.
It was like 250, I think.
I imagine this is not the same feeling, but near it. As in, we got exactly what Deshaun Elliott said, belt to butt. I mean, that's the nice way of putting it.
And it's also funny too because the Ravens matched the amount of runs they had in the AFC Championship game. I think like in the second quarter of this game. I think it was like literally midway through the second quarter, we had the same amount of runs in this game already that we had in the whole AFC Championship game, and it's like, wow, that's awesome. Like when you run, it wins. You win games, and obviously a different team this year. You have Derrick Henry. Last year you did not, but still, it's like it's a recipe for success. And when you follow it, there's obviously a trend and a pattern there that you find a lot of success and you win football games. So keep it going. Don't try to change up and get cute now. This isn't the time to do that.
The Titans rushed for 217 yards against the Ravens in that January 2020 divisional round. And so Ravens ran for 299 tonight. So still 82 more rushing yards for the Ravens tonight. So just pretty crazy stuff. Nelson Aguilar also made a good play today. We talked about everyone needing him to step up, not just Rashad Bateman. And we talked about Isaiah Likely probably going to be the guy that sort of replaces Zay, not a receiver, and he led the Ravens in receiving yards today. Every time there's an injury, whether it's Andrews or Flowers, Likely steps up and looks like a top 5 tight end. He looked like a top 5 tight end against the Chiefs week 1. I mean, this could be a topic for later in the week, but how can we get Likely more involved? You know what I mean? When the ball's in his hands, he looks like a top tight end in the league, in my opinion.
He's literally such a playmaker, dude. After he catches the ball, the things he does is crazy. He just makes stuff happen. One thing, though, that I'm not concerned over it, of course, but I'm just waiting for the day we finally see it, dude. When are we finally going to get a vintage Lamar to Mark Andrews game in the playoffs? When are we going to see this? I don't get why. I don't understand what's happening, but obviously we got the tush push that was very successful tonight. I think we had 3 of them and they all were good. So that's cool. Obviously Andrews is at the helm of that. So that's good. But I want to see a game where Andrews comes out here and puts up 85 yards and gets a touchdown, in a playoff game. We have not seen that in his whole career. And I do think it will happen at some point in this playoff run we're going on. But we need to see it. I need to see Mark Andrews and Lamar, that connection show up in the playoffs. I'll feel really good seeing that happen, especially, in a game like tonight, I thought this would really be like an opportunity for Mark Andrews to kind of explode and get a bunch of looks. And like Brad said, you spread the wealth, so other guys were getting involved, but still, it's like Mark Andrews wasn't. I don't even know what his final line was. I don't think he had more than 2 catches.
He had
Probably
2 for
28.
27. So he did have that. He did have that one. He had that 20-yard catch, which was a good play.
But it's like, it's fine. Obviously, we won, and we didn't really like need to get him involved to win, of course. But it's like I still want to see it.
And the tush pushes were big, like you mentioned too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Lamar finished 16 for 21, 175, 2 touchdowns, sacked 1 time, like you guys mentioned, 132 passer rating. Derrick Henry 186 yards. Lamar 81 rushing yards, 15 carries. I don't know why I didn't mention it, but I think it was pretty predictable that Lamar definitely runs less than he could in the regular season for an obvious reason. Like you don't want to be running 200 times as a quarterback when you don't need to. But obviously in the playoffs, he's going to run as much as he needs to in a must-win game, and we saw that tonight with the 15 carries. And it was funny on that one drive, either their first or second drive, when he had like 3 or 4 or 5 carries in a row, he looked like visibly tired. It was kind of funny. Like, I mean, if you're running that much, he was like running. It was after the play where likely was his lead blocker, and Lamar was pointing and just kind of like jogged out of bounds, and he was like, "Oh my gosh!" Like running back to the huddle. That was pretty funny.
He was also dealing with a little injury during the game. Like he took a hard knee to the like lower back early on in the game. So Lamar was fighting it out, thugging it out the rest of the game, and they were putting like a heat pack on him and stuff. But obviously he'll be fine, But he was sore, and that's partially to the reason is why the second half the play calling got like conservative or what it would. Like they weren't doing exactly what they were doing in the first half. They were probably trying to aid to that, obviously, and not further an injury scare or anything like that too. So you got to keep that in mind too.
I wanted to really add on our Mark Andrews conversation. Don C commented they keyed in on Mark and took him away most of the time. You could, whenever you're watching Hard Knocks, if anyone was doing that, Tomlin was making it a priority and being very vocal about making sure that Mark is not the guy that beats them in the end zone. And I think, especially without Zay, I think there's a big hit on his back and really taking him away. So Lamar can't be comfortable with his number one target. And in the end, it just doesn't matter. When he's the one running, when Derek's the one running, it doesn't matter. He's going to be comfortable. And I think one of the best things that I heard before the game was Chris Sims talking about Lamar and really the play calling as start the game with stuff that Lamar would be comfortable with. What's stuff that can get him in a groove early and really control the game? And so he shakes any nerves or this antsy stuff that people have been talking about in the media. You just see rushing dominance, right? He's not really given antsy chances to throw deep and have to make big plays that way. We saw a few of them. We saw a few that were, shorter gains turned into big ones. Shout out Tylan Wallace for that big third down conversion. That was one of them. There was just a lot of guys making plays, and you could see the pressure. You could literally see the pressure off of Lamar's back, and instead turned into a physical pressure on his back. But other than that, it was nice to see that the rest of the team and the play calling now that Monken's that familiar and comfortable with Lamar and his skill set can make a game that easy to ease into really for everyone.
Agreed. It was definitely nice to see Lamar not have to be like Superman tonight and have to like do every single thing on his own. It was nice to see him have a guy like Derek that we've been preaching all season long. And, years ago, I would say is we need this guy that can do this in these moments. And that's exactly what we saw tonight. And it's no coincidence that it worked in the way it did. So it's got to be very nice, to put yourself in his shoes, knowing that there's also another guy right behind him that can do the exact same thing.
Zach, I'm glad you mentioned the Tylan Wallace play because that was the Ravens touchdown drive with the 4-play drive when Derrick Henry had the 44-yard touchdown. After the Steelers had scored, Lamar got sacked on the first play. It was 2nd and 20, and Lamar rolls out right. Tylan Wallace fights for a first down. That was huge. Mm-hmm. And then the Steven Sims reverse, and then the Henry touchdown was right after that. So that was big. I did want to add on to the conversation of the whole Lamar thing with the being antsy in the playoffs and all that, because it was a massive topic this week in national media. He said I watched his post-game presser, and I watched him with the Amazon crew just talking about being more chill. And he said he didn't even go on his phone today. He said his mom called him earlier today and he didn't answer it. Like he said he was just locked in, like trying to be as chill as possible. So I think that was cool. And he talked about, like, on the Prime set after the game, like figuring out that if you just don't turn the ball over in the playoffs, you have a chance. That's sort of what he was saying. And he said he made young mistakes in the past is kind of what he was talking about, and just protecting the ball. And I do think, like, today, maybe Texans game last year too, but like today, it looked like regular season Lamar today, in my opinion. Like, it almost felt like a regular season game.
Yeah, and as much as we dislike the guy, and everyone has their fair share of opinions on this guy, Nick Wright even said on Twitter, this is the first playoff game that we've seen from Lamar where it looks like regular season Lamar, and like this wasn't like a out of ordinary performance. Like, this is exactly what you see every game, and it's nice. It's like the narrative is starting to get crushed, and it's starting to like get put in the rearview mirror. So it's very refreshing, and you can tell he's locked in, and he's a lot more mature than he was before, because, like Brad pointed out on the post-game, panel of Amazon when he was up there with them after the game, he was admitting that, like, early on in his career, he was trying to do too much, and he wasn't, as experienced, and he wasn't used to the big moment in the NFL yet, because he's a young NFL player, of course, which is completely normal. And now he, acknowledges that he's a lot more proven, experienced, and developed, and he now has like that, initial like jitters out, because you get nervous obviously in your first couple playoff games. So now he's a lot more mature and relaxed, which you could definitely see in the game tonight. He didn't look panicked at all, like once. He never tried to do too much. He didn't try to force anything like he has in years prior, and it was just a completely different showing.
And just to bounce off that too, our preview, we had talked about turnovers and winning the turnover battle. The past 3 postseason games between these two were decided by who won the turnover margin. Today was 0 turnovers, both sides of the ball. And I think that generally favors the better team. And that's how it got done. I mean, taking care of the ball the entire time. Hats off to the Steelers for also doing it too. But if you're going to let Derrick Henry and Lamar run like they did and not turn the ball over, you're the only ones that can beat yourself. It's what the announcers say. It's what we say wholeheartedly. The only way that we can really shoot ourselves in the foot is with penalties and with negative plays. You really didn't find that many negative plays today either. There might have been a few random carries that were back to the line of scrimmage, but compared to the last game in that blowout, Henry was hit behind the line of scrimmage a few times, and we get set up with 2nd and 12, a 2nd and 11, 2nd and 13. And this game having no turnovers, coupled with the fact that you're not getting almost any negative plays in that department besides false starts or whatever, and you played almost a perfect game. Besides the second half jitters with the defense allowing the 2 touchdown drives, or Ravens offense, quote, stalling out. I wouldn't call it stalling out. They still moved the ball fine. But the fact that that stuff happened, you almost played a perfect game without your 1,000-yard receiver playing. And shoot, I hope he can come back next week. I think someone reported it was an outside chance. But, man, talk about a big playoff confidence boost to get someone like him back. Man.
It's just unfortunate. So we talked about it, and now they're saying there's an outside chance. So I would say it's probably like a 50-50 shot Zay plays next week. I truly do believe it's not favorable, and I truly believe it's not like, oh, yeah, he's not playing. But either way, he's not going to be 100% when he comes back. But no matter what, having a guy like him back on the field is going to be a bonus. It's going to help you no matter if he's 30%, because he could easily just serve as a decoy. The teams are still going to fear him no matter what. So we'll see, but I agree, man. If there is a way that Zay comes back next week, dude, and adds on to what we just saw tonight, good luck.
I wanted to quickly shout out some guys on defense we didn't talk about. Matabike, 2 sacks, tackle for loss tonight. Also, the pass batted at the line. He had a great game tonight.
Yeah.
He's dealt with a lot of double teams this year, so not able to have as good of a year as he had last year. Still a Pro Bowler, I believe, so still a great season for Madubuike. I thought Malik Harrison played well. I don't think he was like beat in coverage that often or anything like that. Owe had a sack. I really think the defense played very well besides Stevens/Hamilton on one play and Wiggins/Washington on one play. I think other than that, I mean, they scored 2 deep touchdowns and they had 14 points. I think other than that, the defense was really impressive.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of continued the Stonewall defense like they have the last, 8 or 9 games. I mean, it was exactly what we've been seeing, and they continued it tonight outside of, the few plays like you mentioned, Brad.
And that can kind of come back around to the fact that Zach Orr is in his groove. The Prime Table was talking real good about him, and the fact that he just had to get comfortable. It was a year-long, well, mostly like 60% of the year long, but we stuck with him. It sucked for that first part of it, but to be able to do this in the playoffs and have a clean game, really penalty-wise, it feels like a different team now from just the beginning of the year, really. And the fact that we can have that and the dominant rushing attack, man, we can't say it enough. It's really, Lamar said something about destiny too. It's like that. It feels like that.
2 more things I wanted to mention. One, the Ravens' first touchdown drive of the game after all the offensive playoff woes, deservedly so or not. Second longest touchdown drive in Ravens postseason history to kick off the first playoff game this season, 95 yards. I think it was, a 98-yard. I obviously don't know this. I wasn't even alive yet, but it was 98-yard touchdown drive against the Dolphins in 2001. Yeah. Was the only one that was longer. So that's pretty cool stuff. I also wanted to mention Lamar was asked about what it's like to watch Derrick Henry run down the field.
Yes.
And he compared it to the movie Cars with Lightning McQueen driving past everyone else. And I just thought that was hilarious. He's like engaging with the reporter like, oh, you might be too old to watch Cars, but he still brought it up, and I just thought it was hilarious. Like, he's explaining the movie Cars to everyone in the I mean, I just thought that was hilarious. And,
dude's a clown, bro. I love it.
There's so many times where we do see Henry running around and Lamar's just hand in the air 40 yards behind the play, like celebrating. So I thought that was cool.
That's also the perfect sign that he's really comfortable. He's really happy after a playoff win.
Yeah.
And how comfortable he is obvious.
It's nice to see.
Yeah. Go Broncos. Go Broncos.
Yes. Go Broncos, please. Beat the Bills.
It would
we do have to play the Bills
home game, bro. Yeah. Gosh.
Come on, we got to do it.
Another home game.
I'm not scared of the Bills. I just want the home playoff game. I just want the home playoff game.
Yeah.
Just for fun. I just want, because I wanted to do this in our Steelers preview, but I feel like it'd be cool just real quick to project the rest of the wild card games. Oh, sadly, sure. I'd go Bills.
Yeah.
Eagles over the Packers.
Yeah.
Commanders Bucks is a very interesting game on Sunday Night Football tomorrow. I'll probably go Bucks just because, I mean, rookie quarterback in the playoffs. Dawson, you got
JD is going to handle business tomorrow night. The Commanders are going into Tampa and they're winning. You watch. Jane Daniels is going to go in there and make some noise.
Okay.
I kind of favor the Bucks.
Okay. And then Monday night, very interesting one between the Vikings and the Rams. Vikings are only favored by what, 2?
Mm-hmm.
I think
Vikings handle business.
I think if I had to put money on it, I'd take the Vikings.
Yeah.
But
are you guys both Eagles over Packers?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I think we all feel that way, which makes me think that one of these 2 versus 7 games is not going to happen how we think it is. So I don't know.
I just think
no upsets so far, right? Technically, Texans aren't.
Yeah. Well, no, that wasn't upset. The Chargers were favored, so that wasn't.
Well,
upset.
I mean, like, sorry, as in seating wise.
Yeah.
I will say that I feel like Denver has a better chance going into Buffalo than Green Bay going into Philly.
I agree.
I think I agree too. I think
at heart, I do like the Packers, but I think they have no chance in this game.
I think the Packers just looked a lot better last year.
They don't play good against good teams.
And I think they don't have Christian Watson anymore. That ACL injury.
Yeah.
They were 1-5 in
They're-
the division, and they are not good against good teams.
Their stats whenever they don't have Watson is pretty gross. So
Yeah.
I hope Love plays well. I'm a fan of his. I'm a fan of Josh Jacobs, but it feels like the Eagles are a wagon over there. You don't want to be in front of them right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I will say I would have probably picked the Chargers. So
Me
I
too.
will say I was wrong on that one. But
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Any final thoughts from either of you guys?
Not really.
Big dub.
Looking
Ravens
forward
get
to this playoff run.
Yeah. I wanted to quickly shout out everyone in the chat because we haven't done this in a while.
Mhm.
And we love having you guys here when we're live, giving us things to talk about. Fry Reviews been here for a while. Gerardo, Living Legend, Taco Fall been here for a while. Appreciate you. Let's see who else. Two Federal been here for a while. Appreciate you, Don C. Bikini Bottom with the reaction when Zach sounded like Alvin and the Chipmunks. Ace Almost.
Yeah, I gotta watch that back, dude. What the heck?
Henry, shout out to Henry for coming in here. Two Rings, Montana, Young Gorilla, Charles Atkinson, KP, anyone who I didn't mention. Thanks for being here, everyone. Ricky Adams, Moltac. Like the video if you didn't, it helps us out a ton. Subscribe if you are not subscribed and this was your first episode watching us. If you're on Instagram right now, feel free to go check out Charm City Sideline on YouTube. Go subscribe over there. Feel free to listen to us on Spotify as well. Links in the description of all of our videos if you'd rather listen over there. And yeah, we will be back probably Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday with a Q&A. Sutton's going to be back with us, so that's going to be fun.
Ooh, I forgot about that. Let's go.
Yeah, so that will be our next episode. Glad that the season will continue to go on for us here. So thanks everyone for being here tonight. Ravens defeat the Steelers 28-14 in the wild card, move on to the divisional round. Love you guys, and see you next time. Peace. Have a good Sunday tomorrow watching all the wild card games.
Heck yeah.
Go Broncos.
See you guys. Peace.